When I first heard that Corythosaurus was actually being added to the game, I physically put my head in my hands, and at first I thought it was the definition of wasted money and wasted time. But the astute viewers out there may have realised that I said, at first, for I have done the impossible. Weighing 4.1 tons, Corytho has a decent size to play around with. Its skeletal structure suggests that it was more bipedal, using its tail as a counterbalance. Assuming that was the case, we could make the assumption that it was a more specialised sprinter. To relate this in game, Cory should be faster, more agile and have a larger stamina pool than Parasaurolophus. Its herd limit you can dabble with. I was debating either having 6 to 8 adults, but since Tenno has a limit of 8, I'm more in favour of Cory having 6 adults maximum in a group. Their crests were made up of thick hollow bone, and papers on the animal say that during preservation, the crests were compressed laterally, meaning the examples that we have today are actually only 2/3 of the size of what they would have been in real life, which I think is actually so cool that we know that. Paleontologists also compare Cory's crests to the cassowary's crown, purely because of its configuration. They were used for vocalization, and it was theorized to have sounded trombone-esque, so we can expect a harmonic resonance when it comes to Corythosaurus. But I've got another plan for its crest. Going back to the cassowary comparison, the ratites they are, they'll do anything they can to cause you pain if they see fit, even using their heads. For this discussion, I thought we could have 2 options, and you guys can decide which ones you prefer. A blunt crest, or a sharp crest. They'd both work differently, sharp crests delivering low bleed and scarring, whilst blunt crests would give damage and potential bruising, so depending on what you are fighting, either could be seen just as beneficial in different circumstances. For dealing with smaller tiers, you could use the blunt crest as a knockback tool, where you simply knock annoyances down. On the other hand, the sharp crest, where you land a hit and give out low bleed, could be used as a bit of a containment measure against bigger predators, or anything in general really, that could be vulnerable to bleed, such as Carno for example, at least from my experience, but I am trash at the game, so take that as you will. Just as a caveat, imagine a cassowary smashing its head down on your leg, or even your arm. That's gonna draw blood. At the very least, it will hurt like hell. So imagine that, but a 4-ton animal applying the force. Say goodbye to your appendages. Oh, and just to be clear, this isn't a ram attack. It's more like an axe swing, like a head swing. With how fast I envisage Cory to be, and the stamina I believe it should have, predators should have to rely on ambushing unaware participants, and I'd like Cory to be a more skittish addition to the roster, where spatial awareness is everything, but we'll get onto that later. In the meantime, I'd like Cory to have a quadrupedal sidekick, and since the giraffe in this video is composing such a beautiful example, I'd say it's reasonable to give this to Cory, but I want to add a bit more to it. Following along with the prior inspiration, here's a few pictures of cassowary feet, and compare those to hadrosaur feet. They aren't too dissimilar, minus the bird-like claws. They aren't too dissimilar in morphology, generally. And I don't think it's too much of a reach to give Cory's kicks bleed, especially considering Tenno's kicks give bleed anyway. Against larger opponents like Suko, Alberto and Aloe, it will be able to knock them into a receiving animation, similar to what happens to Carno when Tenno slams down its tail. With small tiers and mid tiers, it should be able to knock them down entirely. This is where you could throw up the idea of Cory also having a bipedal frontal leg kick, or maybe even a stomp, more so the small stomp since Parah is already occupying the former, but either would allow you to pull off some nasty combos, which I think this game needs more of. Like look at my Maggie video. Maggie is destined to be a combo monster, but I heard they're making Maggie a poisonous dinosaur. My rage cannot be quenched. For a special ability, I need Corythosaurus to have seismic communication. Seismic communication is the conveyance of information through vibrations in the ground. Elephants use this technique today, and doesn't this just open your mind to how amazing and beautiful our natural world truly is? And we know more about the T-Rex than some modern day animals. There's so many secrets out there. To convert this into a Vrima, we need to widen Cory's senses, giving it a wider view when it comes to hearing and feeling. Big quotation mark on the feeling. We can do this by either enhancing the thud you hear when big animals are around and that aren't sneaking or aren't crouching, or by slight camera movements or on-screen cues. This could help the horror aspect of the game. Imagine being in the deep forests, enveloped by foliage. You can only see a few meters in front of you, then suddenly you feel something closing in. You don't know whether it's friend or foe. Do you move, revealing your position to a potential predator? Or do you stay, in hopes it's just a fellow forest dweller? That uncertainty is what's scary, and that can only add to the player experience. The counterplay to this is mostly carnivore side. The skill the carnivore player has will incur how well they are able to track and hunt highly sensitive prey. Slowly creeping in from longer distances, either crouched or in a stalking position, is the best way to combat Cory's ability. It would also make Cory's night vision average at best, maybe even a bit worse, which will make the player experience even scarier. And for the thrill seekers out there, this one's for you. And to be honest, if Parah can have a supersonic sound attack that makes your ears bleed, then I don't see a problem with Cory having this. Corythosaurus specimens have been found with food preserved in its chest cavity. Conifer needles, twigs and fruit were all on the menu. Because of this, I think it'd be appropriate for Cory to be a deep forest dweller. It's just on the cusp of being able to traverse deep woodland. This would also be a form of mitigation against large predators who would struggle in deep jungle habitats. It could also reach out to small open plain-like areas where fruits are plentiful. For example, oranges, mangoes, pick your poison. And I do think as well, I think it would be nice if Cory could benefit from water sources, eating certain hydrophytes that would supplement its diet nicely. This is where I'd say it'd be most at risk, with its seismic sense not alerting it to threats or vibrations through water. It could fall prey to the larger semi-aquatic inhabitants. The pure disrespect given to Parah in its own concept art is criminal, and on this channel, it will not be tolerated. I do think it is the devs just trolling the community though. Like, genuinely. I don't know why. I don't know why they think it'd be funny to do that, knowing this community and how rigid and fragile it is at the same time. Parah being almost 3 tons heavier, it has more security. Even so, I still think it should be upsized, only because I love my chunky Parahs. They're beautiful. I'd like Parahs to be good travellers, having a superior trot speed to cover ground more efficiently than its smaller compatriot. I believe it should have decent stamina, but less so than Cory, because it can defend itself to a higher degree. And within its weight class, I think it should be one of the faster runners. Considerable stamina regen would help assist it on its search for food, foraging in mountainous abodes, reaping the benefits lush marshlands provide, and stretching even further to the coasts. I know people have concerns over Parah's scream being abused and spammed. Well, my children, I can dismiss that right now, because if you spam call, your voice runs out. And how can you scream if you have no voice? It's poetic, really. I do really hope when you use the scream, it disorientates the enemy, causing their screen to shake profusely. And the bigger the animal you are screaming at, the lesser the effect. But at the end of the day, it should still be a potent effect regardless. To deal with animals like Acro, a body slam would be ideal. A confident Parah could possibly stand up to a Giga, since they aren't too far apart in weight. I mean, it's possible, but a daunting task. And if you didn't know, I am a massive fan of aggressive, badass herbivores who don't take any shit from the predators. But then I look at the concept art and there's 3 adult Parahs running away from 1 Giga. Mate, swarm him! Parah should have a bigger night vision range in comparison to Cory, and I'm not sure if I'd rather Parah be receptive to bleed or fracture. I can understand both, but I'd fear we'd overdo it if we give it 2 major weaknesses when Rex and Giga are around. But we only really have 1 fracture carnivore from the top of my head. So if Parah was weak to fracture, overly weak to fracture, then it wouldn't really be that bad with the general roster involved. So I guess it's up to you guys to decide that. I forgot to mention, but Cory should be receptive to venom and potentially bleed as well if it could handle it, just to balance out its light-footed design. To elaborate how fast I'd like Cory to be, maybe 10-0 speed, maybe a tad faster, maybe a tad slower. You guys probably have better judgment than me on that. But one thing I didn't realise is that they both, Parah and Cory, coexisted, which to me was really interesting. I didn't know that. Also, whilst recording this, we hit and surpassed 700 subscribers. I'm genuinely speechless. You are all way too kind to me, and I'm forever thankful. Forever thankful. And I'll see you guys. I hope we have a long journey together, you know. I hope we reach the pinnacle of YouTube. And yeah. Oh, but I'm loving the polls I'm doing for video content. I'm loving that. And the last one has actually been really, really close. So it's going to be interesting to see. But anyway, I'll see you guys when I see, the next video. Sticky Nonstar. I mean, he might try to sue me after that. This might be the end, guys. This might be the last time you ever hear of me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day. Have a great day.